welcome. This is an intro video to using Pro Tools on the Kutztown Area School District Recording Studio. So we're going to go ahead and launch Pro Tools here on the desktop. Pro Tools is basically an equivalent program, or not even equivalent, but it's an upgrade from GarageBand. The program is designed to allow the user to record the tracks just like GarageBand, but in this fact you can record more things at once compared to before. So when you launch the program for the first time, it's obviously going to bring up the Waveshell preferences, which you can just ignore. Nothing has to get changed there. So once this goes through this dialog and initializes everything, you're going to bring up the dashboard. So this is a dashboard where you can either create a new program or open a recent program you've used before. So obviously we're not going to be using anything as far as a recent, because I'm going to show you how to do creating a new document. So in order to create a new document, you can do different types. You can do a complete blank document. You have nothing to work with, and it's just a range of anything you can do with it. So you're not specified to one area. Otherwise, you can do by template. So basically, it breaks it down into different types of music. If you want to focus on post-production, recording and mixing, songwriter, guitar, miscellaneous, and also live sound is something that you might want to, if you want to give your track a live sound feel. In this case, we're not going to use a template. We're going to go right from scratch. So we're just going to call this awesome, something simple. Going down into the different types of things to edit down at the bottom that you might change at some point. We're not really going to touch the file type because we want to keep .wav format as the format for our recording, because they keep the most amount of quality to its size. Sample rate is something you might want to play with if you are doing something that's a little more complex. If you were recording a voice dialogue, maybe you want to keep it up in 96 kHz. But as far as recording multiple things such as instruments, vocals, everything at once, it's better to keep it at 44.1, just because our computers can handle that a little bit easier. Bit depth depends on, it's the same reason. It's how much. It goes along with the sample rate side by side. It's involving how much of a waveform that you want to keep, cutting it off at a certain point. So our default is 24. Probably the best place to keep it. I/O settings, that's in and out settings. You want to keep that the same. So leave it at last used. Because I previously set up all the settings that's needed to have the correct stereo, mono channels, all that. Interleaved is basically for if you're working with a stereo track where you want to, no matter what, you want to put everything into a mono track, so it'll come out left and right will be interleaved into one channel. So if you needed to, for some reason, record in left and right channel because of your inputs, you can do that, or you can keep it and you want to put it over into a single track where it plays in like just the left. You can do that. Otherwise, down here at the bottom, it just asks for location where you want to save this. By default, it's saving it here for me in my documents folder. I think if I remember correctly, I think it's default to the desktop right now for you guys. So just keep it saved there, and then you can drag it into your name and just keep it there. So we're going to hit and create. So this is what a blank document of Pro Tools looks like. So we're going to basically break this down into just getting the program introduced so you guys understand how to, just what all the tools do up here in the top. We'll have another video too, a couple down the road, when we have some audio to play with, of just what all these tools do and how to use them. And then, but for now, we're just going to focus on the counter here. This is called the big counter. It just basically shows you, like, if I would move somewhere in the track, it tells me I'm on beat 31. fourth count. So right now this is set up that it counts in um, for 4 measures. We can change that in the settings to something different if you needed to. If you need to do 3/4 time, whatever. We can also change the beats per minute. So right now it's at 120, but we can also change that in the settings as well. Over here, you can kind of ignore this, by the way. Over here is the main transport file. It allows you to control what the tracks do and overall program is doing. So obviously, if I wanted to record something, for example, if I had a track here and I was ready to record, I make sure the track's ready to record. I hit my record button up here. Now the next step up here is to hit play, and then it starts recording the actual file. And then when we're done recording, you just hit stop over here, and it turns off. The recording is done. So let's get into what we can do with a track. So when we go to click create a new track, you want to go up to the track up here, click on new, and it brings up this little menu here. So one of the things that Pro Tools has, it's really easy, is if you want to create multiple tracks at once of the same type, or many tracks at once without having to go in and out of this menu so many times. At this point, we're going to create one new mono track, which just means it's either left or right, that's centered. So I can use one channel on the board. So say I want to bring something in from channel 3, which is where my microphone's plugged in right now. I could bring in that into a mono track, which means I'll hear it in both my left and right ears at the same time. We're going to create one new mono track to play with, and then we're also going to hit the plus button over here. We're going to add a row, and I also want to create a new stereo track as well. So one of the advantages here, as I said, is you can create multiple different types of tracks. So I can create 20 new mono tracks and 10 new stereo tracks in one command and not have to sit here and click and click and click and click. As far as the audio track here and the samples, that's really nothing you have to play with right now at this point, but in the future you can use the audio track. You can change it to something with the aux inputs if you're doing something like an accessory sound or something like that. Master fader is something if you're doing where you want to control multiple tracks or all of it at once. You can put your tracks into groups, which allows you to use a master fader to control all of those groups, as well as an instrument track, which would allow you to control how loud something is in. If you want to control, if you're doing a band mix, you can control how loud the instruments are in the band compared to the vocalist. So we'll go ahead and create this. So by default, the program calls them Audio 1, Audio 2, and so on if you would add more. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and change this to, I'm going to call this first one here, which is our mono track, I'm going to call it mono, just for now so we know which one's which. While I was in here, I forgot to mention that one of the things that Pro Tools has advantages is you can add comments. So if you were doing multiple takes of the same instrument, so say I'm going to record Bob's guitar 3 times, I can write in here, this is take 1, and save it like that. And then over here, say I was recording it again, I can do the same thing, but now I can call it take 2. And one of the advantages of that is it just allows you to see quickly what the comments are. You can also add cut here, cut there, whatever, stuff like that. It's just something easy to keep everything at. We're going to name this one stereo. Bringing down into the different parts of the controls here for every channel. Here's your record button. So if I want to record just this channel right here, I can hit record, and then obviously you do the same steps to hit record. You go click, click, there you go, you're recording. But before you get too excited and get into that, you have to figure out where your input and output are going. So by default, all the outputs are going to channel 1, which is basically a stereo setup. So it's coming back to channel 1 and 2 on the board. So left and right, basically. That's why there's a tape there. It keeps them 2-panned to one side. But for the input, we have to select where we want it to come in from. So at this point, right now, my microphone is coming in on channel 2 left. So if I would hit record here, you should see, in theory, my microphone start bouncing. Sometimes it doesn't always work. that's how things work sometimes. Um, the next thing we can focus on. So at this point, we're not going to be using stereo. We're going to be using mono because this is the mono track. So channel 6 mono is on the board. Is I believe it's channel 6 on the board right here. So if I was importing something from channel 6 on the board, it'd be mono 6 on here. Onto our stereo here. That one there, we break down into, I have 5 different stereo channels that I set up. So basically, when you look into them, channel 1 here, stereo, is analog 1 and 2, so channel 1 and 2 on the board. Channel 3 and channel 4 are stereo. Sorry, that's the input. Go over to input, not output. Input channel 1 stereo is the channel 1 and 2 on the board. Channel 2 stereo is channel 2 and 3 on the board. So at this point, basically, when you break this down, you can put multiple instruments into the same channel or break it down. When you guys come in, this is how mine's set up, but the one that is in your setup is channel 1 and 2 are left and right, 3 and 4 are channel 2, 5 and 6 are channel 3, 7, 8 are channel 4, 9 and 10 are channel 5, and then after that, basically, the mono comes back, and the mono is going to be like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We only have 16 inputs from the board that we can use. That doesn't include like digital IOs and stuff like that. So right now I don't have the channel stereo set up. We want to make sure that we're in channel 2 stereo. So if I hit record here, you're going to hear me. Right now you can see the waveform showing that it's getting an input at this point. Breaking down into the different parts here. So you have your record button, you have your, if I remember correctly, it's the isolation button as well as your solo button. You have both, and as well as your mute button. Advantage of the solo and mute buttons is you can solo something out without having to mute everything, and muting, you can mute different takes of a guitar or something like that. This here is just default showing the waveform of the file that you're recording. You can change it to something like, say you want to have the volume there, you have the volume show up. Usually when you're doing recording and you're trying to balance how loud something is, you can go here and click over and click the arrow down, and it shows the volume, and you can control different points. So if I want to lower it right here, I'm going to bring down a little bit, bring this back up to 0, and say right here I want to make it mute because I don't want to show that there's anything there. Real simple to do. And of course you can just put it back away when you're done. Over here you have your volume overall. That'll raise everything up, so you can go up plus 12. It has a really wide range on this board. Next thing is pan here. So I can pan it to the right or to the left. So in this point we can listen, and what you'll hear is if we go, okay, let's record the stereo here. Now right now it's sensing that I'm here, so we're gonna go ahead and hit record, play. So right now it's recording me talking. So at this point I hit play again, and it's recording me while I'm sitting here and talking. So right now, obviously since I'm using the microphone somewhere else and recording this, it's not going to show up here. But if we hit stop, usually your track would pop up here, but unfortunately since I'm using the microphone to record the video, it doesn't show up. Otherwise you could easily see that the track was here and you could work with it. Other than that, I think that we covered most of the basics of using the program for now. Yeah, if you have any more questions, just look at some of the other videos.